A Story of an African Slave continued. Part 3. For 5 years after this I remained in his house, and almost daily received the same harsh treatment. At length he put me on board a sloop, and to my great joy sent me away to Turk's Island. I was not permitted to see my mother or father, or poor sisters and brothers, to say good-bye, though going away to a strange land, and might never see them again. Oh, the Bukra people who keep slaves think that black people are like cattle, without natural affection. But my heart tells me it is far otherwise. We were nearly 4 weeks on the voyage, which was unusually long. Sometimes we had a light breeze, sometimes a great calm, and the ship made no way, so that our provisions and water ran very low, and we were put upon short allowance. I should almost have been starved had it not been for the kindness of a black man called Anthony, and his wife, who had brought their own victuals, and shared them with me. When we went ashore at the Grand Quay, the captain sent me to the house of my new master, Mr. D., to whom Captain I had sold me. Grand Quay is a small town upon a sandbank, the houses low and built of wood. Such was my new master's. The first person I saw, on my arrival, was Mr. D., a stout sulky-looking man, who carried me through the hall to show me to his wife and children. Next day I was put up by the Vendu master to know how much I was worth, and I was valued at £100 currency. My new master was one of the owners or holders of the salt ponds, and he received a certain sum for every slave that worked upon his premises, whether they were young or old. This sum was allowed him out of the profits arising from the salt works. I was immediately sent to work in the salt water with the rest of the slaves. This work was perfectly new to me. I was given a half-barrel and a shovel, and had to stand up to my knees in the water, from 4 o'clock in the morning till 9, when we were given some Indian corn boiled in water, which we were obliged to swallow as fast as we could for fear the rain should come on and melt the salt. We were then called again to our tasks, and worked through the heat of the day, the sun flaming upon our heads like fire, and raising salt blisters in those parts which were not completely covered. Our feet and legs, from standing in the salt water for so many hours, soon became full of dreadful boils, which eat down in some cases to the very bone, afflicting the sufferers with great torment. We came home at 12, ate our corn soup, called blolly, as fast as we could, and went back to our employment till dark at night. We then shoveled up the salt in large heaps, and went down to the sea, where we washed the pickle from our limbs, and cleaned the barrows and shovels from the salt. When we returned to the house, our master gave us each our allowance of raw Indian corn, which we pounded in a mortar and boiled in water for our suppers. We slept in a long shed, divided into narrow slips, like the stalls used for cattle. Boards fixed upon stakes driven into the ground, without mat or covering, were our only beds. On Sundays, after we had washed the salt bags, and done other work required of us, we went into the bush and cut the long soft grass, of which we made trusses for our legs and feet to rest upon, for they were so full of the salt boils that we could get no rest lying upon the bare boards. Though we worked from morning till night, there was no satisfying Mr. D. I hoped, when I left Captain I, that I should have been better off, but I found it was but going from one butcher to another. There was this difference between them. My former master used to beat me while raging and foaming with passion. Mr. D was usually quite calm. He would stand by and give orders for a slave to be cruelly whipped and assist in the punishment, without moving a muscle of his face, walking about and taking snuff with the greatest composure. Nothing could touch his hard heart, neither sighs, nor tears, nor prayers, nor streaming blood. He was deaf to our cries, and careless of our sufferings. Mr. D has often stripped me naked, hung me up by the wrists, and beat me with the cowskin with his own hand, till my body was raw with gashes. Yet there was nothing very remarkable in this, for it might serve as a sample of the common usage of the slaves on that horrible island. Owing to the boils in my feet, I was unable to wheel the barrow fast through the sand, which got into the sores, and made me stumble at every step, and my master, having no pity for my sufferings from this cause, rendered them far more intolerable, by chastising me for not being able to move so fast as he wished me. Another of our employments was to row a little way off from the shore in a boat, and dive for large stones to build a wall round our master's house. This was very hard work, and the great waves breaking over us continually made us often so giddy that we lost our footing, and were in danger of being drowned. Ah, poor me, my tasks were never ended. Sick or well, it was work, work, work. After the diving season was over, we were sent to the South Creek, with large bills, to cut up mangoes to burn lime with. Whilst one party of slaves were thus employed, another were sent to the other side of the island to break up coral out of the sea. When we were ill, let our Yet, not the less, our master expected, after we had thus been kept from our rest, and our limbs rendered stiff and sore with ill usage, that we should still go through the ordinary tasks of the day all the same. Sometimes we had to work all night, measuring salt to load a vessel, or turning a machine to draw water out of the sea for the salt making. Then we had no sleep, no rest, but were forced to work as fast as we could, and go on again all next day the same as usual. Work, work, work. Oh, that Turk's Island was a horrible place. The people in England, I am sure, have never found out what is carried on there. Cruel, horrible place. Mr. D had a slave called Old Daniel, whom he used to treat in the most cruel manner. Poor Daniel was lame in the hip, and could not keep up with the rest of the slaves, and our master would order him to be stripped and laid down on the ground, and have him beaten with a rod of rough briar till his skin was quite red and raw. He would then call for a bucket of salt, and fling upon the raw flesh till the man writhed on the ground like a worm, and screamed aloud with agony. This poor man's wounds were never healed, and I have often seen them full of maggots, which increased his torments to an intolerable degree. He was an object of pity and terror to the whole gang of slaves, and in his wretched case we saw, each of us, our own lot, if we should live to be as old. Oh, the horrors of slavery! How the thought of it pains my heart. But the truth ought to be told of it, and what my eyes have seen I think it is my duty to relate, for few people in England know what slavery is.